Arcadia Bank that's now national.
But our state fund rate right now is 5%. About 25,000.
Okay, guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the property committee meeting on June 12th, 2023. Of a meeting called to order of certification of open meeting laws,
Yes.
adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Doc, second by Dick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. We don't have any roll call on this. Do we do a roll call here? No. All right. Everybody got the minutes from the previous meeting? You went through them. Any corrections, additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
There was a spelling mistake in it. I don't know if we need to.
That's all right. If you want to point it out, that's fine.
I'm trying to find it. Where is it?
Did you say you did write something?
It was just a spelling mistake. It was no big deal.
Somebody's name?
No, it was like, instead of two, it was so. Whatever.
Oh. Sam.
Yeah.
The one I missed then. We'll find it.
Yeah. I can't find it.
Well, we can come back to that. We can jump ahead to the public comment period. This is for any members of the public who want to call in, a 15-minute block of time today. If you want to call in, please call at 715-538-1894. This will be for the next 15 minutes.
I found it.
You found it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're in the comment period. We can go back and, okay.
Seventh line down under maintenance department updates.
Well, vaccine free.
And freezer have been moved, so the connection, wait, no, that
Yeah,
one.
so the connection period.
Maybe that isn't the one.
Maybe that wasn't it. Or I read it wrong.
I'm going with that.
You're talking to my
He's looking for his correction.
We'll hunt it up. If
Okay.
you're not okay with that stipulation, we can do that.
We can make a motion to approve it, tentative on the correction that Dave has spotted, so we can move ahead.
And two dicks weren't here, so we can't prove it, can we?
You went through it, you can still prove it. I mean,
You can?
yeah, they didn't have to be for the meeting.
I'll move to approve it.
Motion by Doc,
I'll approve it.
seconded by Dave to accept the minutes as printed with the tentative on the correction when it is found. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Okay. Being that we have the public comment period open right now, we'll just leave it open and proceed ahead with Samuel's report.
All right, so I got some sheets we handed out to you. Let's begin with this colored one, floor plan. In essence, we've made some minor tweaks to this. We have not been able to meet with the departments. We made some changes between health and land management There were some tweaks made in human services. I think we had a couple up by the clerk's office, but we want to get in front of the department heads to make sure that the changes were there. They weren't significant. It was moving some walls. So I'm planning to get that done virtually. We may have to meet in person with a couple of the groups, but we'll get that done here in the next week or two. And then this will be the document after we get their finalized tweaks that we'll get those CDs wrapped up and plan to have that thing out for bid yet this fall. This is tied back in kind of with our schedule. And the schedule, we still are on track for the end of October to have substantial completion for the Justice Center. We have had one department meeting for all of the departments that are going to move into the addition, and we plan to continue to do them monthly. And it's really talking about coordination of what needs to be done for occupancy of the Justice Center. During the initial meeting and discussion on that, we were talking about, I told them that you guys had asked, when we're going to move in, when are we going to have a public opening, that sort of a thing. In early discussion, sounds like we're going to look to have the shakedown complete before everybody moves over there, but we're working on those final details yet. So plan to nail down a date. And something to think about is that you don't have to wait until we're occupied to have an open house if you wanted to, but other things about the open house is I want to have everybody on board with where are we touring the public, right? Because we are dealing with a secure building, so we may want to have a specific tour if you're going to do that of how we go through the building. So we've got some time to nail down the details of that. I know last time that question was brought up, but I have let the departments know, so they're working on finalizing a date for you. So any questions on progress on this side? I will get with those departments, and most of them we can handle virtually and keep moving forward with that. Okay. Next one is the next colorful photo. So you guys had given us, I think, 3 or 4 options. This is for the frosted glass that's going to go above the main vestibule when you come in, to be the frosted glass that you can see into the meeting room that's there. Tim had actually sent it over to us. There were 4 different items, and Tim had asked if the design team, along with the contractor, could determine which one does the best job in regards to representation in a frosted model. And this is the one that came back in regards to the best look on the frosted glass. So I need your blessing, approval, so that we can actually get that glass underway. This would be the look. If you'll recall, there was discussion about whether it's the landscape, whether it was the county seal, and I can't remember what the third one. Oh, there was one with somebody in a canoe too. But this was the one that ended up looking the best. So is this what you want, or do you want it just to be frosted? It could just be a frosted, fog look up there with no pattern to it.
I'm good with the barn.
You're good with the barn? Yeah?
Whose barn is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Take the upgraded pole building out of there.
Take the pole building out of there? Go back to the original farm?
Yeah.
I think
No, it's fine.
There was talk about a river view that.
That was the one with the canoe. It got washed out. So it ended up looking, that's what they did. They ran all these different options to see which one would give the appearance that was there, and this was the one that came back as the clearest. Again, it's not going to be colored. It's going to be a frosted image of what you see right there in the scenery there. So,
It sure looks like most of Trempealeau County when you're driving the countryside.
yep.
You need a motion.
Well, we should have one, yes. We are.
We approve the recommendation regarding the landscape design.
Motion by Dick to approve the landscape
Second.
photo, seconded by Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
Okay, so those are the big elements there in regards to those 2 for decisions. Next one is an update on the contingency. These are the contingency items. I'll summarize them for you. None of them exceeded the $25,000 for you guys for review or approval. So I'm bringing you with the update. To summarize, the majority of these are electrical coordination in regards to what an air handling unit needed for loading. It was specified incorrectly, so we had to have the electrician put in different requirements than what was identified on their documents. This has all been vetted by Kurt and the team, that these are justifiable as to the contractor. The other ones are a couple security access panels. You see 130 and 132. As the design starts to become enclosed, they need to provide access so that Jeremy can get to valves, so you can get to junction boxes, and in the secure areas where a junction box ends up being placed or where it has to be, we have to give them access to that. So there's been access panels that have been added. I think Jeremy's been in the loop in regards to where those are. We just don't want to get to a point where they can't access one of those things that are in an area, so we're adding some access panels. And the biggest one of the costs is the changes at the courtroom, the Alpha courtroom. Again, that was one where we slid the back wall back, added some pews. I thought the number was going to come back larger than what it did. It was at $24,313. So my recommendation would be to move forward with that. I did tell Kurt to move forward with those because it would be a lot more money if we decided to do it down the road. So,
And most of those costs are actually the benches themselves.
yeah, it was pews itself.
The benches themselves, the wood benches, that was the majority of the cost.
Wow. So get that extra room.
Yep.
That's on both sides. isn't it?
Correct.
Double door.
$24,000 benches.
Wow, it's not,
It-
he's just saying,
They just, they added
That's a
salt
large
panels.
But I did I did ask Kurt earlier, I says, when you looked at the plans, you knew how much space there was. Then all of a sudden, are the people getting bigger, that we need to have more pews, or why the change when you looked at, because you got to look at the plans before, correct?
Right.
And-
I'm glad to come and answer some questions.
Yeah, that's fine, you can sit I don't know if they got, yeah, anybody's.
All right, so, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is that what, you got to look at the plans ahead of time, and then you've seen the space, and you've seen how much pews there was there that was on the plan. What was the reason for the change that you didn't see before that you saw now?
Sure, I think a couple things. One, when we did have the drawings, we never had like the scale to know how big it was, how much space was between. And it's one of those things when the walls were up or framed in, and we walk around in there, and then we drew, okay, where's the bar gonna be, where the space for the pews. And this is the Alpha courtroom, which is the ceremonial courtroom, and so it's supposed to be larger and fit more people. And as we looked at it, it looked as though the pews were like really, really far apart, actually, further than what we more further than we have in the current courtroom. And then I'm looking at this and thinking, well, this is a ceremonial courtroom. Is there a way we can tighten these up and bring another bench in here to see, if we can get more seating available? So if we have a large complex case or something where it would be nicer to be able to add that extra row in there. And then we measured those things, and then we started looking at, well, those conference rooms in the back, when you look at them, they seem a lot bigger than what we thought they were when you saw it on the drawing. And so at that point, the back wall was framed in, nothing else was there. And so I just asked the question, well, how much would it cost to just move that wall back a couple feet into the area where the conference rooms are, because those seem larger and there's room to move it back. Doesn't seem like it'd be much work. And add an extra row in and tighten them up a little bit so that, and then we also had another issue that we wanted to deal with, and that was just simply had to do with the space we were working with. And we know the space is what it is. We couldn't make bigger space. And so another issue was, so when you're sitting at council table, let's say this is the council table right here, you and me are the attorneys, and the jury's right over here, and you want it so that the attorneys can see the jury at all times, and not have to have jurors back here all along and turn back. And the way we had to kind of squish things in there, and I know it's a big room, you're saying squish things in there, but the way that we had to do it, the tables are ahead of that jury box a little bit, and so you'd have to actually turn this way to see that last juror over there. And so we're thinking that if we move that wall back, brought in another row of seating, that could bring that front bar back actually a little bit to give a little more space for those council tables to come back too. And so that's what we had talked about, like, it kind of dealt with a couple issues that we saw. And so my question at that point is, well, how much would it cost? Let's at least see how much it would cost to do that, because it doesn't seem like it'd be much other than adding in and the cost of the row and a little bit of work to move back that wall. The rest of the stuff hadn't even been built yet. And so that's where that came from. And so I would say really that's looking at it on paper and not really knowing the scale or being able to like visualize and see versus going in there and seeing the walls and drawing the lines on the floor. This is where this is going to be. That's where that's going to be. And like, yeah, how much would it cost to just kind of move that back, add in an extra row of seating? Yeah, and I think those benches are expensive. They're a couple $1,000s for a bench, and there's 2 of them added in there.
One more than that, but
And then-
also, Judge, remember, that space is so compact, we had to shrink the attorney's tables. Remember, it was.
Yeah, we did. We ended up shrinking the attorney's tables to make that fit. That's another thing we did outside of this to make that area fit. And I don't know about the estimate, but some of that also the expense was the paneling, the wall, because
Just
now
the
it's
wall
back
panels.
further. They come in one set piece, and I was wondering, do they, instead of like a 7-footer, now it's a 9-footer? And is there a credit back on some of those then that we didn't
Well, actually,
need?
the saw panels actually increased. I went through that with the contractor. It was a different layout, so there's a little bit of cost associated with those acoustical panels. So our biggest cost was probably, I think they had put different add some light fixtures in there, and then was the benches. That's the majority of the cost.
Yeah, I think you said that the lights come in one piece, and so
Yep.
instead of this size piece, it now had to be this size piece because it was just a little bit longer because the wall went back a little bit further. That's what I didn't know if there was like a credit for what
Yeah.
was.
It all works out in regards to where the total, but I think your question is a fair question about how do we get a representation of what does a room look like prior to constructing it? And this isn't uncommon that when you start to get into this space, it looks different when you're actually in there. And because of the importance of that room and obviously how it needs to function, I think it's wise to make the adjustments that we've made here. Again, $24,000 isn't a small amount of money, but it is much less than what it would be if you had to make those changes after you occupied, identified that it didn't work, and you had to make some adjustments. So I think the question is fair, but understand both sides of that.
I
So-
respect the judge's opinion. I was just
Yep.
asking the
Yeah,
question.
absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
if you had had a plan with scale, he would have been able to see it probably maybe.
And I would just say too, that my thought was, let's get a cost estimate, come to this committee and say, is this something that's
Feasible.
feasible? Is it something that everybody's comfortable with, or no, this is the way it is? We should have, got that dealt with earlier. That was my thought. And so I think the fact that it came in under what was expected, and so I'm just saying that's where I was coming from with
Right.
this. So.
And truly, Judge, like I said, your changes came from when you actually taped out where everything is, where you had a better understanding. And he did that with our team, and so we knew what his issues were, laying it out, and so we were trying to maximize the space. That's why the attorney's table shrunk, so they had a little further away from the jury box and jury, so.
And we made some tweaks in the other courtroom that are not gonna be additional costs, since they're not, so that's that moving that bar back, and the other courtroom, we're gonna shorten up the distance between the pews and push that bar back, again, to give a little more space for those attorney tables to come back. There's still, it's instead of having them behind, they're alongside rather than ahead, if that makes sense. So we're gonna make do with what we have, but since that wasn't done, wasn't built yet, we're able to move that, and that's another example of something looking at, once we mark the floor and say this is where it's gonna be, we could still move that back a little bit, so those are, I guess, a couple tweaks that we did in there.
But basically, the only thing that was done in there was that stud wall was put in.
That's right.
There was some electrical may have been run through or maybe it wasn't in. When I went through there, I didn't know.
There was
this.
a little bit of conduit in there.
Was there a little
Hanging
bit in
down,
there?
nothing- But no boxes put in, but I think
Yeah.
it might have been run down.
Yeah, I guess this would be a criticism of architects in general. The things that you're mentioning, Judge, the visual line of sight and that sort of thing, when you think about it, an architect doesn't have that expertise of what is required in a courtroom. They almost need a call on an attorney who or a judge who serves in that capacity to design a courtroom. And I think that's true with so much. They don't call upon always, do they?
I guess I understand where you're going, Dick. I don't want to sound as though I'm defending the situation, but each situation is going to be different in the room. So there was some 3D imagery. I don't want to misrepresent that you just had drawings. There were 3D imagery that you're going to see in that courtroom that was represented to the group, but it doesn't give you the exact viewpoint from each and every location that's there. You pick a spot and you get to deal with that.
I understand
So,
that, but I think.
But we weren't dealing with a design team that this was their first design of a courtroom. I don't want to misrepresent that, is that they've done this before. Right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there are tweaks like this that need to be made.
No, I agree, but
Yeah.
I think it's oftentimes, I guess, my limited experience with architects, that they are artists.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they don't always have all the information they need to do some of these very, specific, maybe minute things that come up. So I'm not overly criticism, just a little bit.
And I guess just one other thing, so that you guys all understand the approval process, is that as we went through the design, Judge was obviously involved, staff was obviously involved, but the district court administrator is involved, and then obviously the chief judge had authored a letter that said, we're good with this design, but there may be some adjustments that need to be made. And that is really what we're doing here. We're aligning with that process to make sure that when we get in, we need to make sure that this thing functions. And I don't think, based on what we're doing, that this is a significant in regards to the overall volume. So I think for the most part, this is the extent of what we're looking for in regards to revisions, so.
I just,
You need to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you finish up what you were thinking.
Oh, I was just, I agree with largely what you're saying. I think that's the problem with any building. You bring it before people like ourselves, like the judge and other people who have their expertise, but it's hard to visualize.
Yep.
Some of us aren't visual people.
Yep, I agree.
I'm done.
I want to just go on record as saying, so our contingency is 1.5 million, right? To the extent that we can keep that below 1.5 million and finish this thing up, it really goes to help the other expenses that the county's going to have to take on to do all the rest of the work in this building. So when I sit here as a, person in this county that looks at the money that's being spent, I'm like, $24,000 for benches. I go, wow, okay? So as we move forward, I implore everybody to make sure that we're not doing something just to do it. Well, now's the right time to do it. Well, can we live without it, right? Do we really have to have it? I've said that before, but when I see $24,000 benches, I know that's not all of it. It seems a little, like, wow, a lot of money. So, good point, Judge. I totally agree. We need to have the right setup. It's too bad we couldn't have seen that up front, but it is what it is. So I wouldn't be opposed to approving it. I'm just saying, boy, we got, how much left? Is that 904,000 left? We've spent a lot of money on contingencies that we didn't seem like we did very good job planning up front, is all I'm saying. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I just want to make sure that we are not spending more money than we need to get this project done, because we have more things to spend it on. So, I'm done.
Hopefully this will be our last change order.
Don't count on that.
Like That kind
We
of shoots
still
that
got-
right down.
October, right, Kurt? October, we still
But
got
aren't we
a
to the
month to
point
spend
with the
money.
building where?
Well,
there should
you're-
be any
like what you're
big
seeing-
surprises?
Yeah, what you're seeing here is like these electrical, you're getting into different phases where the electrician is connecting to equipment and what was spec'd is not what was there. So you're getting into the finer details, right? But
Right.
I don't want you to leave here, that's the last one. No, we are, every option that we can to mitigate an added cost to the contingency we're doing. But in the overall scheme of things, remember percentage-wise, and I know where you're going, don't spend a dime, but because we've only used 500 and some $1,000 of contingency, it is actually comparable on a project this size. We're doing a good job. I don't want you to say that we misplanned, right? Contingencies are there for these sorts of things, and there are some that are hard to swallow, because why didn't we know that? But, yeah, we're, to your point, hopefully they're getting in a smaller category. Yep.
And you still have a clean, with our accidents?
Oh, yeah.
That's looking
Yep.
great, so there
Yep,
should be
absolutely.
some
Building-
opportunity there.
Yeah, building or project has been a safe project, so. We did have a cool event on Friday. There's a jail administrators conference that was held here by the county, and then they toured the campus and got a lot of comments from surrounding sheriffs and jail administrators, and Brad Hoover was here and gave a tour, so there's a lot of good things. And I know you all, again, don't understand the model in regards to how a jail and a courts are done in other areas, but your model, we refer to it as a Trempealeau model because of what we've done with the classifications and the connection between the courts and the jail, that is very, very efficient. And those that aren't, that don't have that in their county saw that on Friday and got a lot of good feedback on it. So good things happening there. Okay, so that's all I had on contingency. No need for action there because everything's under the value from review of the committee. Last thing is that just those monthly meetings will continue to happen with departments. We're working on coordination of low voltage, AV, outside agencies that got to bring their equipment in, so those will be ongoing until we get to substantial completion. And then the last thing that I had is, I know you have a board meeting coming up on Monday, the 19th. Would you like me to be here? And if so, what would you like me to present?
When was the last time you were there, Kurt? Two months ago, I think?
I haven't been here for the last 2 months, correct?
I think
I want to say there was something that came up.
you should.
It was this frosted glass. It was a matter of whether we wanted the whole board, and I don't think the whole board needs to talk about that.
No,
Maybe
no,
it's-
I think it'd be good to have them there just to upgrade on the renovation part of it too. You know, I don't know if the whole board is on board with that yet, because it's been 2 months since you've been there, and
I
I
think
don't know.
essentially what's going to happen with that is we're going to show them that we've nailed down a floor plan, but they're going to want to know the dollars until we bid it out. The rest of the board are just going to, they know we're working on a design and we're going to get a bid. So I can present that. I can get you some progress photos. I mean, if you wanted to do a tour, I know there was a
Well-
discussion of a tour. I would suggest that if you're going to do a tour, I would do it in the next couple of months because finishes are starting to come on. I would think that a July or August rather than a tour in June would make some sense, but we can do a tour now and do one at the end if you wanted to do that.
Could he appear virtually?
I can.
Does he
If you
really-
want me here, I'd prefer to be here in person.
Okay.
Otherwise you're hearing a guy and a speaker. If you want me here, I'll be here. If you don't think it's necessary, then we'll wait till another month.
It's up to you guys.
Well, if you think you're gonna do it, I would say let's plan on July
Okay?
and let the rest of the board know that it's gonna be July and he'll be here for the tour in July. So a little heads up, does that make sense?
I think it does. There's really nothing new to
That sounds
report,
good.
other than, and maybe even the chair could update
What's-
the most
Yeah.
recent information, too.
I think I'd like to see a timeline of when we're going to get the bids submitted and when we expect them to get them back and
Yep.
when, kind of an idea of when our decision time is going to be, because a lot hinges on, from a financials perspective, I know it didn't hit, but if the ARPA funds for some reason were pulled, okay, what are we going to do, right? So all that kind of hinges together with what direction we want to go.
So the dates right now that I have venture targeting is that we would have it out to bid the first week in October, and we would have the bids to you by the end of October. That's what we're targeting. Now, If we slip the occupancy date back, meaning that if we all move in after we do shakedown, we could push that back. And because of a renovation project, we may get more favorable numbers as we get into the winter months, rather than having people bidding it at the end of summer when they're busy. So there's a process there that, maybe it goes out later, but if you want to do some budgeting, and I don't know if that changes the way you budget for your year, you would need to have bids for your budgeting in earlier October, right? Because aren't you budgeting in the month of October?
End of September.
Before then, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not going to hit that window, so it might even be advisable that we push it later if our occupancy date's going to be after the first of the year, because we can't get contractors in there until we move anyways. But right now, I have Venture saying, get us something late September so we can get bids out and get something to you in October. That's what I'm targeting, unless you want something different.
Everybody okay with that? The July and,
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Now,
Now,
Dave?
Paul,
Yeah.
the ARPA situation, the feds could change their minds at any time, but I guess it's just for the feds to hand out money, then ask for it back seems rather
I
foolish.
think we're past that scare now, but.
Right, we
Yeah.
got that notice last week.
Yeah.
okay.
But they haven't spent any of that's our problem. We haven't spent any ARPA money.
the
Don't worry,
question is
we
whether-
will.
I mean,
it's
we've
good.
allocated it to the
Yeah.
contingency and to the furniture. So, you gotta get that.
And how many people want some of that, Paul? How many dollars?
Well, for what's left is about 1.7 million that we haven't allocated, and we've got $12 million.
Requested.
Requests
Oh.
for that 1.7 million.
Never a shortage for asks, right?
With
I said I
with
couldn't
the
figure out
renovation project, that's
percentage,
gonna be
everybody
3 to
could
5
spend
million.
all
Yeah.
this.
I
So
don't know
you-
why there's even a discussion about it.
Yeah,
honestly.
we know where it's gonna probably end up going into there. I agree.
We just have to refuse to send it back if they ask us for it.
So did I hear you say, don't be here Monday, be here in July? Okay,
That's what I
Yeah.
heard, so I voted on my notes.
okay.
Yeah. If they have any questions, we'll get a hold of you ahead of time.
July
Okay.
17th.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So,
Fast question, you'd be on July 17th county board meeting, but the
Yep.
tour would be like a couple hours before?
Whatever you guys think the tour, what that makes some sense, because we could do it before. I've done that. We could do a tour before.
And then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at 6 o'clock, everybody meet there? Because the meeting
That's only
starts at
a half
seven.
hour, that wouldn't give you, well, no, that's an hour, yeah.
Oh.
that's enough.
And that's about enough to,
Okay.
I've taken it
Hour?
twice and it takes
Yep.
about
Yep.
half hour at the
Okay.
most. But with a group like that, it might take a little longer,
Well,
but,
they could, you could take two different groups too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Divide it up a little bit.
Yep. And
So we'll
everybody-
plan on that then.
If everybody behaves good, we'll give you a sucker at the end.
That could be a challenge.
yeah.
All right,
All
thanks.
right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.
Okay, thank you.
So just something kind of tied into this, it was alluded to earlier, the public tour would be, that has to be decided, obviously, when that would take place.
There's two ways you can do it. I mean, when we get substantially complete, while we're finalizing some things, you could have an open house. And what I have seen counties do, And what I have seen counties do is that they'll actually have a selected tour through the jail, so you're not seeing the entire function of the jail, but to get a feel for Sallyport booking, and then you take them into one housing unit, and then you come back into the courthouse. You don't take them back into the judge's chambers. You see what the public would see, the lobby, the courtroom. That's what you do, like a quick tour, right? You could do that after we're substantially complete and say, hey, we're working on shakedown, we're looking to open this thing up. Then you may have some community members that say, they got the thing done, but they're not moving in. What's going on? Why are they sitting on their hands? Don't understand the process of what shakedown looks like. Or you could get it up and functioning and operating for some time, and then you have a tour after that, which if we're heading in the direction that I think we are, then it would be after the first of the year that you'd have your open house. And it's in the middle of January. Do people want to get out in the cold? I mean, that's all of how you want to view it. So a couple things to be thinking about. Again, the decision does not need to be made today, but in the next couple of months it will, and so we can get notification out to everybody.
After the shakedown's done, And certainly after we're operating it, we wouldn't be having people walk through the jail, right?
Well, we've done tours, we've had them do that, but it's nice to have it done prior to having inmates in there,
Yeah,
yes.
I like that because it's a deterrent from making sure people don't want to go in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always.
Then we should be doing tours daily.
This is where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
Some people actually like that better.
Yeah, you don't want people going, oh, this ain't bad.
But I don't think if there are prisoners in there, I don't think that's going to be
No.
permissible at all.
No. But again, I would highly encourage, I know the sheriff will want to weigh in and make the decision, but encourage like just a selected tour. You're only seeing bits and pieces of it. You're not seeing the entire layout.
Well, I think that's all appropriate anyway.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the most expensive stuff is the stuff we can't look at.
Yeah, right. Yep. Oh. Well, you can, you just got to come in a different door.
You'd be able to check out the $24,000 benches.
You're telling me to check out the Sally point.
That's right, yep.
Sit on those benches.
All right, thanks, everyone.
But there's more than that too, because there's a lot of walls to move there, up there. A little bit of that, a little bit electrical, but mostly. All right, thank you, guys. Okay, IT, Tim Roberts Tim's not.
Where he is.
Okay, since Tim's not here,
Back today.
we'll move on to Jeremy.
Could be anything I need to stick around for? No, I don't think so. See you guys later.
So thankfully, it was a very unimpressive and not expensive month. This week, nothing catastrophic happened, no big changes. Only things that we've really done this month so far is I sat down with Paul and went over some line items in my budget, and we allocated some non-lapsing funds. And I was able to condense those to start purchasing some things that I needed for the new building without having to go through budget process or requesting new funds and stuff like that, because there's quite a few things that I'm going to end up needing to buy over there still that hadn't been addressed yet, like new picnic tables for the outside, exterior trash cans, smoke stations, janitor carts for my staff, new shelving for some of the closets. So most of that stuff I'll be able to buy before budget time this year, before the end of the year, before the building opens, without having to ask for new funds. I did have a couple of windows tinted here last week on the south side of the building, areas of the building that have been difficult to maintain temperature-wise. So it's part of the DA's office, the county clerk's office, the county board chair's office. And I had already had funds set aside for that, for some window repairs. Other things that I have got in motion with that money that I found with Paul there was the truck for my department has been purchased, but tomorrow it goes in and gets a snowplow put onto the front of that, so I'm getting ready for that for the parking lot. And the biggest area of concern that I have for that is actually going to be the sheriff's new garage. You'll be coming in off of 121 or Dewey Street to get into that. So when the highway department comes by at 2 o'clock in the morning during the snow, it's going to end up plowing in the whole garage, essentially over there, and then the exit from the Sally Port. So trying to figure out a way to plow out of the garage, out onto the main highway, and then trying to shift it around somewhere else. So that's because I had originally asked to have that particular section of entrance, concrete and sidewalk heated, just with the underground boiler that's already right there. But that was the second thing that was pulled out of my requests at the beginning of this project. So I've addressed that with Brett, and we're probably end up parking my truck in that garage during the winter so that I can plow out.
Would it not be easier to handle that with Bobcat than?
Well, I'm going to have that as well, so it's just a matter of trying to get it done as quick as possible. If I'm going to end up, if it's going to be snowing overnight, I'm going to be the one that's coming in at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, before the rest of my crew comes in at 5 o'clock, so that I can maintain that the sheriff's department can still get in and out of the Sally Port for jail and in and out of the garage if they need be.
Most of the police cars are four-wheel drive now anyway, so if you do
Yeah, but I think-
if you do got something there, you can just, they can get.
Yeah, if
they
it's,
should be.
if it's a normal snow, it's fine, but it's that 1 or 2 a year that we get that when the plow trucks go by and you got 8 inches of snow and now it's plowed up to 2.5 feet. Again, it's just the worst-case scenario that I'm, planning for on that, and that's the reason I'm putting a plow on that. But again, it's not any money that I'm asking for, it's just a project that I'm doing. As well as the gravel parking lot that's existing right now. I'll be paving that later this year. As it sits right now, it's gonna be late August, early September, but the highway department hasn't been able to give me a set date yet. But those dates were given to me by the judge's office, that there's either no or low court at that point, because the excavation and the paving is not a quiet process, and we try to do it when there's not court going
Where's the
on.
funds coming from for the paving?
Just out of stuff that I already have, from non-lapsing funds, from stuff that has been purchased before, where there was, yeah, if I spent 10 and I had 12 and I had 2,000 left over, it's just kind of being shifted over into one. So, went over it with Paul, made sure that it was not a gray area for me to spend the money in that particular way, but everything is in the up and up. So that's, again, stuff that I don't have to come back for exec finance. I didn't have to, I had already written up resolutions to have all this stuff presented, but we rescinded those resolutions and are just going forward with it now, so.
Which area are we talking about?
Where the current, the gravel area on the south side of the building there, yeah, so we're just gonna end up paving that, because, again, once the building is said and done, that's kind of where I intend to have the remainder of the county vehicles that are there now still parked there, because that's another one that I'll bring up to you guys probably next month when I have an accurate count, is the main parking lot of the new building. We're gonna have to designate a percentage of those parking spots to visitors, so that that entire parking lot in the front of the building is not filled with employees before the building is even open. So if we have 45 parking spots up front, we probably want to designate at least 15 to 20 of those for visitors that are coming in for court, or visitors, so that we're not making people coming to visit us park over by the baseball field to come inside here, where an employee should be able to park over that area.
Well, those should be for the people who come in here for court, coming to pay their taxes, coming to talk to any of the other departments. And we should, I don't know, the employees can park across the street, I would say.
When we designed it, it was designed that no employees would park in that parking lot at all.
Yeah,
That
but it
makes
hasn't been
sense for me.
specified anywhere
Yeah.
for that.
That
So it
makes
needs to
sense.
get written down somewhere that someone sees that, because that's, whether it was specified for it or not, unless it's been written down and announced, it won't matter. That's where people, just like I've asked people 100 times not to park in front of the courthouse now, but there's still at least one employee a day, if not more, that park directly in front of the court. I don't care if you're parking on the opposite side of the street, but it has become an issue for the tax office that was over there, employees that were parking and blocking mailboxes on Main Street, people that, stuff like that. So I can ask 100 times, but unless I have some sort of enforcement for it, it doesn't really.
Well, I think
Hold water.
we could decide that even today, as far as that goes. We had that issue years ago with the existing parking lot, and we had designated spots. As soon as you open it up, the employees are going to use it. It's convenient, so I almost think we should start by simply agreeing with what Ashley's saying, is leave it open for all public parking, or all customer parking.
Yeah.
Because if you have a jury here, they really struggle finding a place to park. Now, there are not a lot of juries, but still, you never know.
Because there'll still be the parking that's existing now on Hobson Street. There'll still be the
Yeah.
existing sheriff's parking lot, and then what will be the new parking lot where the gravel is that employees can park in, as well as the shared parking lot that we have across the street with the city and the hospital. But I believe once the hospital project is done, there won't be a lot of hospital staff parking there, because they're having their own parking lot, parking
Oh,
structure
okay.
built where the existing hospital is.
And actually, the entrance into the new entrance into the courthouse is going to be
Directly.
quite accessible from that
Yeah,
existing
you'll be parking
part.
pretty much directly across the
Yeah,
street
yeah,
from it, so.
yeah. I
So
don't
if you
know-
want to designate that the parking lot is done, that is guests, visitors only, that's perfectly fine, as long as I've got something to reference
Yeah,
for
I think
that.
we should start with that and see how that works.
There are some spots that have to be designated for certain things.
Well, you've got
Well,
handicap.
there's a couple up
Sheriff's
front that are,
Department and our office, we have certain things, like when we designed it, we counted out the spaces, we figured it all out when it was getting designed, like what spots would need to be reserved. I don't remember the numbers offhand, but.
say, the only one that I knew that reserved was one inside of the sheriff's garage that was designated for the judge. That's it.
And there's a lot of room in that garage.
No.
I think we're gonna be able to get a couple parking stalls out of that for the rest of the departments too. There's, I mean, there's,
Right,
that's
there
huge.
are some things in there
that
that
parking.
were gonna be designated for certain things.
Yeah.
I don't know all of them off the top of my head.
And I haven't received a list of that either. Alls I've received
Well-
is a tentative parking lot layout with X amount of handicap spots near the front of the building.
Were there some spots originally planned for other
Yes.
parking? Do you know if that's available, that,
The sheriff and I would have to talk about that.
I think, well, let's include this on next month's,
Next month's agenda, we'll
next
put that
month's
in.
agenda.
Because
Uh,
if you could get us the layout that you
yeah,
had designated, like Dick
yeah.
says, that would be helpful.
Then we can move ahead with it and have it done.
Yeah, that would work out good.
Okay. And then the only other one that I'm looking at right now is staffing. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, one, I do have the approval now to have one new custodian hired by the end of this year. But when was the last time, and I talked to Dan about this last week, when was the last time this committee or individuals have walked through that new building? Has it been recently, or?
I walked through it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I heard that you've been there a couple of times
couple
because you were
times, yeah.
familiar with what was moving in the courtroom.
Yeah,
But,
I've been through there also, and I know what you're gonna say.
yeah, it's, I mean, it is a substantially larger building than this one
It is a
here.
big building.
You know, with different types of flooring, blah, 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 et cetera. So what I've been doing over the past few weeks is reaching out to similar counties in size and aspect, just to kind of to compare what my staff is to other buildings. The one that sticks out in my mind right now that and again, I'm not trying to get to this level, but is Clark County. Clark County, the gentleman that's in my position let me know he has 92,000 square feet. Right now, I have 86,000 square feet. You're adding 117,000 square feet, which roughly gives me 200,000 square feet. He has one supervisor, one maintenance guy, and 5 custodians for half of the square footage that I'm gonna end up having. Again, I'm not coming right now and asking for 3 more custodians, but I'm also working with the sheriff's department to see if inmate worker programs are going to be reinstated when this new building is open, because that's been helpful in the past, where I'm able to get low-risk inmates able to come out and, you know, do certain cleaning aspects and stuff like that. But just by walking through that building alone and trying to figure out what's going to be my staff's responsibility versus like inmate workers or trustees in the jail, you know, who's going to be taking care of what. I may end up coming back next year and looking for another custodian. But again, just like the billing and the bills, I'm going to have no idea how this is going to work until I actually take over that building and start running a day-to-day operation. But it's just a forewarning, because again, I mean, other counties that are not comparable to me, like Eau Claire has quite a bit more. I think they have 9 custodians, 4 maintenance workers. There's my position, and then that position has a secretary, and then there's a supervisor over that. But that county is quite a bit, obviously, larger than ours. Their jail's, I think, 300 people plus. But just an FYI that I'll be looking at possibly at coming back for more custodians next year, depending on how this plays out, because there is quite a few extra square footage that we're adding over there. And like I said, right now I'm hopeful, but I'm hopefully optimistic. So we'll see how that plays out for next year. I have no other issues unless you have any questions.
Yeah, I got a question for you. I went out and looked at those, you were talking at the last meeting, remember he was talking about getting rid of the sign, the Trempealeau County sign out that's on the east side of the building, and the flagpoles?
Yeah, out here on the main, on the front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and I think anybody coming here, when they come down 121 or or 93, 53, they won't be able to see the south side of the building where it says Trempealeau County. So if you just left that pillar there, it just says Trempealeau County. If you take the entrance stuff off above the doorway.
Yep.
Because that's what throws people off.
Yeah, that will be coming down regard, because it says
Right.
entrance, yeah.
Right, and I agree, I mean, that's a good thing. Because I think if you just leave that there, when people who are coming here for the first time just look over and see Trempealeau County, they know that's the courthouse, so they know, okay, where do I get in? I mean, unless you guys want them to take it all down, but I thought it kind of looks nice there. And if you, it helps identify the building, what it is for somebody that's never been there. Or if you want them to take it out, that's fine too, but.
I have no issue
Up to you
leaving the
guys.
concrete signage, because it's easier to leave it there than it is to do anything else with it, so.
So what do you guys think?
I don't know why we'd spend the money. Just leave it. It looks fine.
Yeah.
Looks fine.
And as long as you, like you say, Jeremy, you take down that entrance part of
Yep.
that door, it won't throw anybody off. They'll say, hey, I'm here, okay. So-
I think with that, yeah, that door is gonna go, isn't it?
No.
The door, no, the doors will stay, but there'll be emergency exits.
Okay.
But like Adi had said, there is signage above it that says entrance or Trempealeau County Courthouse, any of that stuff, that lettering will all come down, so.
Yeah, that should be sufficient, I think, to throw, you know.
Yeah, I think, I agree. I think it should be left up. I think there'll be a few people that are gonna try to get in the old door.
Well, and that's gonna happen regardless
Yeah,
for
yeah.
quite a while, because not everyone comes here very often, so.
Until the next guy comes along, does the same thing.
All right, does anybody have anything else for Jeremy? If not, thank you, Jeremy.
Hey,
All right, parking lot charging station. I don't,
You guys asked to have it on.
We did?
Yep. Huh?
Was that last month they asked for it?
Dan did, yes. Dan talked to
There was some talk years,
with John Austin.
there was some
Oh.
talk years ago, before you guys were on board, of having a charging station. I don't know, was there a city, did the city put any charging station in? They didn't, did they, Paul?
Not
You
that
know?
I know of.
Charging stations are very expensive. It takes really heavy wiring.
is there any grants out there, statewide or federal grants out there to put
There
them
might,
in?
there might be under this new money was passed, approved by the feds.
We can check with Riverland, because they put one in out there.
Have they?
Right there.
Well, yeah, we should maybe have somebody
There
check.
was one thing also about that you couldn't charge for the electricity. That was the thing that was kind of interesting. Why put one in if you can't charge for people using it?
Especially the cost involved. The units aren't very big. They showed me one up at the Chevy garage up in Osseo, and, but their problem they have is they don't have the wiring, which is hard to believe, to hook those up. Because it must be a huge amount of power that has to come in to fire those up.
Yeah, and you're gonna eventually need one, I would think.
Oh, I think you maybe need more than one.
But if that's only going to be public parking out there, why put one in for public
Well,
use only?
yeah, I think we're gonna,
If this is something that I could try to get prices on for you for next month, because if this is something you're considering, now would be the time
To do it.
to do it before we pour concrete.
Or blacktop in there, yeah.
Where the wiring-
tear it all up again, right?
Can you do that, Jeremy? That'd be nice, so we'd
I can
have,
figure, and I can look for grants, but this is the first I've heard of it, so that's why I'm kind of listening. in
yeah,
on
Dan
this
just,
now.
he brought it up at the last meeting, and,
I think under that infrastructure bill, there was some provision for grants or some monies to
yeah,
support
that's what I
that.
thought. I think you're right, Dick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, the city should have something in that case.
Yeah, if you guys could check into that for the next meeting, we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Seems odd that we would spend money on something where there's no demand, but I can't say that there's no demand, so,
They're-
you know.
The way it could be a big demand in the future. Right now, I don't think, where there are stations, there's not a lot of use yet.
Yeah,
But the minute you don't have it is when you're gonna need, somebody's gonna want it.
Yeah.
And if, like you say, if you're tearing everything up now, it wouldn't hurt nothing.
thought of that when you bought the car.
All right,
keep it plugged in.
All right,
all the time.
we'll put that on next month's agenda. Okay, item number 10 is discussion and action on meeting room policy and security. I don't know. I did talk to somebody from a couple counties at the last Highway Counties Association. And they said, you need to protect the judge and his chambers. That's the ones that you really have. He said that's in our county, that's what they do. And a couple of them said that. The courthouse is where they really have the strict, everybody has to go through. And I did talk to one where all the employees, everybody has to go through the metal detector. So there's a little bit of each out there, you know. And some only have it on the days when the judge is there.
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah.
Jackson.
That might have been one I talked to. I did talk to like 3 or 4 counties on it. There's no standard across the board for doing it. Some allow them to come in and have meetings. And if you think about it, you can separate, if there's any way to separate our meeting rooms from like the courthouse part of it, you know, you could maybe open it up if you wanted to. Some places do, some places don't. So
We will have that, because the court system and everything that's Justice Center will be locked off when somebody comes in for a meeting. And we're basically talking about after-hours deals.
Exactly, yep. So you wouldn't even need to have an officer on, or somebody if you didn't want to. Because they're coming in, they're not getting into that part, they're only coming this way. So that was just some of the discussion we had with some of the other counties. So, I mean, it says action, I don't know if we have to do it now, we should just have, I think, more discussion on it, because it's not an easy thing to solve.
It's funny, because about 4 months ago, or more than that, this was put on, and I was told that bring it back in about 18 months, a year and a half. But the next month, you talked about it again, and you put it on there every time since, even though it's something that should be done after the whole renovation and construction is done. Then you'll know where your meeting rooms are and what the security would be for those.
But when the doors first open, you'll need to know if all employees need to go in, because you don't want to have to change that after.
The entrance, but this is the
Right.
meeting room policy.
You get kind of all that lumped into-
And that's another whole discussion.
I think that all got lumped into one.
Well, it was the security for letting people into the meeting rooms.
Yeah. And if,
Well-
yeah, like I said, do we need an officer on at night if you're just coming in here for meetings? After hours. I mean, they did it for years without an officer there, and nothing ever happened, so.
So, I mean, I can leave it on and you just don't have to do anything if you want.
No, I mean, anytime, if you leave it on, at least we're discussing it.
Yeah.
Maybe come up with new ideas, you know, or somebody heard something, or you talk to somebody, and we can get at least you keep the ball rolling in the thought process. Because, you know, we should have all this pretty much down packed, because October's gonna be here before you know it.
Well, in the past, when people have come in the evening, the door has been opened by an employee of the county, though.
No, well, Jeremy has unlocked the door, computerized, unlocked the door when he knows there's a meeting. That's how it used to be.
Okay, and then
And then it would lock after, I don't know if it was an hour.
he said it was set so it would be
Yeah, it
locked
would lock, yeah.
automatically.
That's still how he does it for county board. It's not the guard that.
You know,
locks.
When there's a meeting scheduled and it involves a department or an employee opening and closing, they kind of take the responsibility of making sure everybody is out. But under that practice, there's no one to make sure people leave. I don't know,
You kind of hold everybody on their honor,
Yeah.
basically.
yeah.
You know, I mean, how many meetings did we have down in the old Packer room and all those for years, and we just left, there was no officer there, and
Would there be any
But you
accident?
couldn't get anywhere else in the courthouse.
exactly,
either
you
from that.
only got access to those rooms.
Would there be access to any other part of the
Not with
Yeah,
the
everything
way
be
it's gonna be
locked.
set up.
It should be
You
able to
just have,
separate.
people come in the front door, they would be able to come down here for a meeting, but you can't get into any other part of the building. Upstairs, across from where my office is gonna be, there's gonna be 2 rooms there, and then the new county boardroom. That's the only places.
Oh, okay, so there are doors
So they
separating.
won't get any farther than those.
Okay, well, that sounds reasonable, better than what it's been.
As long as everybody locks their door.
Well, the doors that go into like the old courthouse, I'm gonna call it, that door gets shut, nobody can get in there unless
Yeah.
they have this, and we
Yeah.
still don't know what this is gonna be good for at all.
Yeah, and they have to make sure that if they're coming down here, the television area is blocked up, because there's a lot of fairly valuable equipment there.
I'm not sure they'll be able to access over here.
Where? This part, yeah, because the old courthouse, the doors are there. They'll
They
just
just
be
have to
coming
keep
in
those
here.
doors open, because I think that was part of the closing of the doors too.
Those will be shut after hours. Those
But the
will be shut.
hallways aren't gonna, are the hallways gonna
hallway-
be?
Because the only way to access this is those steps over there.
Yeah, but that's on this side of the locked doors.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so if somebody would come in the new entrance and had to go to a meeting, they can get down here, but they can't get any farther that way. They can go upstairs to those 3, and they can't go any farther past that into the old courtroom.
Paul, you want to set up there?
I'm done talking.
Okay. All right. I think it's, and we should probably decide too on that. Have we decided how the security part of this whole thing yet either? Of who's got to go through and who doesn't, and which doors, or no doors, or all doors? You know, we talk about it quite often, but we never, I don't think that I can recall, maybe I'm getting old, I don't remember everything, set policy yet, and that should be in place by October. You know, we should put that in next month's agenda too. I would think, don't you think?
I can split this down.
Because that, all of a sudden it's gonna be here and we ain't gonna say, well, because I know you guys had that meeting on it, and we have to make a decision one way or the other, right, wrong, or left or right, but we have to figure out
I thought we
exactly.
kind of did talk through some of that, maybe.
But I don't think we said it in
No, I mean, there's no
right down.
policy been written for sure, but I thought we said that you can't have it both ways. You can't have employees say, hey, I want to be secure, and other people say, hey, well, I want to be able to go to Quick Trip. Sorry, you can't have it both ways. So everybody's going to come in through security when normal business hours from 8 to 4:30. You're going to go through security and all that. I think the question is, do we make people stop and put their stuff through the metal detectors if they're an employee? That's
Well, there was
the question.
Well, there was discussion 2 months ago about having a pass-through.
Yeah, right, there was. And didn't we say that there was going to be? I thought
I
we
mean, like a
said,
separate line if you're an
Yeah.
employee, you could go.
Right.
That has to be decided.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think, I think that was
You have
just
to have that
discussion.
anyway.
that's the stuff that
Yeah.
we need to decide.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like when UPS and FedEx come in, unless they're all gonna come into the sheriff's department. All deliveries go to the delivery.
So-
Because some of those things that come through aren't gonna fit through the medical.
Right.
Are they-
Metal detector.
Are they looked at for possible issues?
Does he have a wand too that he can go? Do they have a wand?
They haven't, you just come in the exit side of the door.
Anyway, that should be, I mean, don't you think we should have some kind of, just
Well,
something written beforehand and take it to the whole board, so they say, this is what our recommendation is. So that we have something down packed, so the employees know exactly what's going on, and the people out there know what's going on. Just an idea.
You know, it's just, it's hard to cover every angle, isn't it?
It is.
But, you know, when you think about it, if FedEx comes in with all this stuff, who knows what the heck is in there, you know? And one could go up to the courtroom or to the judge, and no one has screened it.
And, you know, you get such like hypocritical discussions on this, because we say we want everybody to go through metal detectors, so in case you have an employee that goes out, comes back in mad.
Yeah.
And then we say, well, we're gonna have the employees go through this over here, and you not really go through it. Well, you just said you want,
We should be considering that, just like the school, there's no way you're gonna be 100% secure in all circumstances. So you do the best you can, and you have a process, and that is what it is.
yep.
Well, it still requires setting something down on paper, and
True,
that's what's hard,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
you know.
all right, any other discussion on that? Okay, I think items for next month's agenda, pretty much same as this one, comment, Samuel's IT maintenance, the charging station, you guys will get some information on,
Jeremy,
the discussion on meeting room policy and and the security and what,
Designated parking spots.
oh, that on too,
I've
yes.
got that already written
Okay.
down too.
Well, we're just, okay. Anybody have anything else? Okay, next month's meeting will be July 10th at 8:30. And we've accomplished all the items 1 through 13. So right this time, I adjourned the meeting at 9:35. Thank you, everyone.